You're all very, very welcome. It's great to have you here at Vicar Street. Thank you so much for coming out. We have a great show. The plan we are thinking is we're going to do 55 minutes or so with our first guest, who is, of course, Tony Adams. And then we'll take a little intermission, maybe 10, 15 minutes. And then we will bring out Gary Breen, Damian Delaney. Gary Breen has spent the last hour just fanboying Tony Adams. He just can't believe what's happened. So we're going to let them sit together on the chair. That's it, really. I think just to say a big thank you, because this is really only the second big show that we've done. And it just hit me a few days ago. This week, a year ago, was my last week in my previous employment. And I just had a flashback to this month last year. And I remember leaving and then thinking, oh my God, have I made a terrible mistake, for about 2 weeks, and just listening to the radio non-stop. I was like a creepy ex-boyfriend. They're doing so well without me, you know? My God, why aren't they in tears? Yeah. And so fast forward, we walked into Independent House mid-September, and it was like, got to start a show in 2 weeks. And we did, and we've just been blown away, honestly. From day one, emails in, and the listening numbers are crazy, and we wouldn't really talk about it too much on the pod, but if you take the last 10 months and just listen, so not like the YouTube clips and all of that kind of stuff, which is, you know, a whole other world, but just people who click listen, and, you know, we can see how long you listen for. We know what you have for breakfast, kind of thing. In 10 months, we've had 6 million listens, you know, which is just like, boom. So it's great. Thank you. Thanks, Mum. So it's great, but at the same time, it's great to see real people, so a show like this is just great for us to do, so you're very welcome. Sky Sports, who've sponsored our football all year, they said you should do a live show, Premier League Eve, and so that's the plan, really. We'll have prizes later on from Sky Sports, and between Sky and the Sports Extra package, they will have all 300 games from the Premier League live next year. They'll have Champions League, Europa League, hopefully some Irish sides involved in that, and the Conference League. So a big thank you to Sky. Came on board early, supported us early, made this whole thing possible. So we're thrilled they're here tonight. And this night's kind of about thanking them as well. So that's me. That's the little soliloquy over. I think tonight's going to be brilliant. Like, I've done shows before where, you know, it's kind of like after dinner speakery. Tell us about the time you pooped in Razor Ruddock's shoe, you know, that kind of thing, and it's fine, but it just, I think tonight's a more interesting night, actually, because we've got someone who doesn't do a huge amount of interviews like this, podcasts, like I've never spoken to him, so I'm really looking forward to it. He needs no great introduction. I had forgotten he made his debut for Arsenal at age 17, just a couple of weeks after his 17th birthday, which is just a bit nuts for his big central defender. He was made captain, as I'm sure lots of you know, of Arsenal at the age of 21 under George Graham, wins the league in 89 in Anfield, wins the league in 91 again, all as captain. Yes, amazing. And then, you know, the 90s, lots of good things. League Cup, FA Cup double, European Cup Winners' Cup, you know, things are good. And then in 1996, he shocks everyone and says things are not good. Things are not good. And in 98, Addicted is published. Phenomenal book, I read it again. Just in the last few days. He takes every penny he makes off that book and starts his own charity to help other people. Phenomenal thing. And then just for, you know, good measure, wins 2 more doubles under Arsene Wenger. So we're talking about an amazing person, I think. We're thrilled he's here. And without further ado, would you give a very warm Dublin welcome to Tony Adams, everybody!
Off that shirt.
Hello.
Give us one. I got my green on. Look at that. I've got a Scottish grandmother and a German great-grandmother. I kept that very quiet when I was England captain. There you go. Green for the Irish. There you go. Like our kit in '83. Do you remember our kit? Oh, my God, it was awful. Sorry, Joe.
Not at all. I'm fighting with my headset over here. We'll sort it out. You were very welcome. It's great to have you here, really. Brilliant to have you here.
To be honest with you, I jumped at it to come over. It's been a long time, 33 years I think, since I've been to Dublin, and I've come back here clean, sober. My behaviour when I came here last time was appalling. Lucky I got away with a lot of shit, but
Thanks.
I'd like to come back clean and sober with the gold medal of recovery, and sit in front of you guys and be respectful, because you are brilliant people and Dublin's a wonderful place. And I just was a very ill man in that period. But we'll get there. We'll get there. We've only got 55 minutes, I've been told. So go. But it's good to be here, guys. And girls.
Why don't we just jump in at the deep end? Best way to jump in. Throughout the book, 80s into 90s, you referred to yourself as an alcoholic in development and then full-blown. I guess a question you must have thought of and reflected on is the why. Why did you drink to oblivion?
Well, it started with, I was 14, 13 years of age and a scared little boy, really, frightened to death, uncomfortable in my own skin. And I found this football that, suppressed. I was out and I was keeping 100. I remember this girl called Catherine Oxon. She lived down the road, and I'm 14 and I'm trying to do 100 headers on my head, because when you're doing that, you're not thinking and you're not feeling. You're not bothered about. I had panic attacks at school. When the reading out the book and the book's going round and you're sitting there, and I was absolutely shitting myself, and I was like, oh, I can't read this. And when I did say so, I said wheelie instead of really, and everyone laughed at me. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't stand all this stuff, so I run to the football pitch. Everyone's going, oh, you're a good player, you're a good player. So I got this ball and I'm keeping it 100 times, and she came past and she went, oi, I want to go out with you. Not you, by the way. So I put the ball down, and I walked round the corner, and we kissed or something on the corner. And then she said, oh, I don't want to go out with you anymore. And I was like, oh! All those feelings, I picked the ball back up and headed it on my head. So the reason why I used alcohol was to change the way that I felt. I didn't like me. I had a big nose, still got a big nose, but I had a big nose. I was full of insecurities, off the pitch, anxiety, fear. On the pitch, you couldn't. It was like a Jekyll and Hyde. On the pitch, I was confident. I was, TA's up. I'll kick him. I'll smack him. I'll do it. I'll win it. I'll win the league. Where. But when I came to a point, should we kick on? I'll keep going, shall I? Yeah. 29, and I actually, this illness of addiction, it really took hold, and it took away everything. It took away my wife. It took away the kids. I was at the end of my drinking, there was things coming out there. We'll get to the football stuff, don't worry. You're all looking apprehensive here. But she had left me, my mother-in-law had taken the kids, and I was hallucinating, I was paranoid, I was full of fear, and the alcohol stopped working. That stuff that I talked to you about, I must have done it for a reason. I did it for the crack, it was a fun, it changed the way that I felt, it was working, it was my medicine that became my poison. It became my poison, and I crossed the line. I actually didn't want to drink anymore. In 1996, in April that year, I didn't want to drink anymore, but I was still getting pissed. I was still getting drunk, and it frightened the life out of me. I had to do the Euros. We got the Euros out of the way because I'd used football to suppress my thoughts and feelings, and I didn't have to drink. I abstained. It's very different from the recovery I've got today, but I abstained from drinking through the tournament. But as soon as bloody Gareth, missed that penalty, I was on a 44-day bender, and I got to the end of that 44-day bender, and I had a pint. My last drink was a pint of Guinness. There you go, way! For those that can drink safely, knock yourself out. I've lost all right. And I had a brandy in that Guinness, and it was sitting there, and I was 29. I didn't want to be on the planet, and I started to cry. And it was like 29 years of hurt. I was just like crying and crying. I don't want to live. I didn't know how to die. It was just so painful. And I asked for a little bit of help, something inside of me. I just went, I can't do this. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I was led. I go Alcoholics Anonymous, and 29 years, and I had a little bit of a twinge back you said about last year. 29 years ago, on the 16th of August, at 5:30, I had my last pint of Guinness and brandy in it, and I love recovery now. I've gone from loving football to loving getting pissed to loving recovery. Very much.
I can tell that feels just good to say.
That's great.
The thing is, and it probably prolonged the problem, with the drinking, you were still very successful on the pitch for Arsenal. I mean, I mentioned it at the top, you were made captain at 21, so you're not just a player, you're a leader, and you win the league in 89, you win the league again in 91, there are more trophies which follow.
I always say we didn't, it was a booze culture. There was a lot of drinking going on, which hid a lot of my drinking. I married a crack, and she took crack cocaine, my first wife, and it kind of hid my drinking. What she did for me, she propped me up. Look at her, she's a drug taker. I'm only a drunk. I was in Chelmsford prison 35 years ago because of a drinking incident, but look at her. It's not about me. I'm okay because it's sociably accepted. Everyone was getting drunk.
That Chelmsford prison, that was a big warning in retrospect. It's amazing.
No,
So this
didn't touch the sides.
No, but I mean actually for people at the club, it was maybe a sign that things were a bit out of control. This, just to jog people's memory, you were lucky to survive it, really. Like, it's a car crash, you go right across the dual carriageway.
Listen,
and it's bad.
I was a very sick man, and I got in my car, and I went straight over an A road. I don't know if you've got a couple of A roads here. 80 miles an hour, and I was at a clipped a lamppost, and I was out of control for the length of a football pitch. I went through a front door at someone's house, ended up in their front house, and I put the head, banged the head. Luckily, our clunk clicked, in a period where we didn't put our seatbelts on. And what I did, I went back to, I went in Chelmsford prison, but I'm actually the 12th. Next Tuesday, I'm in there, and after 35 years, they've actually got some addiction programs in Chelmsford prison now. Hallelujah. I shouldn't have been in prison. I should have been in a rehab. There's a guy with an addiction problem. No, you just put me into a cell. I didn't educate. There was no education about me. I was a boy there that couldn't control his drinking, was out of control. But because I was a good player, it got buried. Anyone else, I say this to this day, anyone else would have been out of the club. Anyone else, it got carried. And it's really interesting, and I say this, we won the league in 89, we won the league in 91, so I'm kind of getting away with it a little bit, but we didn't win the league again until I sobered up. And we became a very good cup team. I could get up for the FA Cup, the double that you spoke about, the cup double in 92, 93. I could get up for 6 games a year, but I could never do. The way that I was drinking straight after the games on the Saturday night, all day Sunday, knocking on the pub, Wednesday off, so Tuesday. Monday night I played darts, 8 pints of lager, but I'm playing darts, I had a justification. On a Thursday night I played snooker, 8 pints of Guinness, you know what I mean? I was only sobering up on a Friday to play on the Saturday. It was the extent of this illness, it was a progressive illness. So it was very good, and I played in a wonderful, wonderful best back four I've ever played in 1994. But I could get up, and we became a very good cup team because their captain was on the piss most of the time. So there was no chance until I sobered up, and then, I think Arsene always said, Arsene Wenger said to me, Tony, you played at 70% your capacity. That's not French, is it? Tony, you played at 70%. I don't know what that is. Sorry, it's a bad impression.
You quite liked
that was by George Graham, I think. Tony. That's better.
Oh, we'll come back to that. You quite liked prison, is the funny thing.
I was safe. I couldn't do life. I couldn't do life on the outside. I could play football and get drunk. When I see my therapist back in the day, James West, who saved my life, he died last November. So I spoke to the guy in that April when I told you that I'd crossed the line. My mother-in-law, she didn't know what she was doing, but she saved my life. She gave me a number of this guy that was a recovering alcoholic, and she said, Tone, I think you need some help. And I found the courage for somewhere to go and see him and go and talk to him, and he saved my life. And just the courage to do that was enormous.
So prison was safe.
Yes, so it was safe, and I wasn't what's the word? I didn't understand feelings. I didn't understand what I was doing. I was very unconscious. I could justify everything. You know, it's all other people's stuff. Look at me, I'm England Arsenal captain. You know, I've not got a problem. You know, and all the time, the behaviour is getting worse and worse. I've not pissed myself for 29 years. I remember in a club round here, Gresham, I forgot to undo my flies and I pissed myself and I had a wet patch, all this, and Dave O'Leary said, Skipper, get yourself to bed. But that's a guy there that's really struggling. But we didn't understand the illness in those days. We didn't understand this guy was really struggling with booze. As, you know, people if they'd come up to me at that point, there was no one with the... I was a bit of a trailblazer. There was no one in the industry that was a recovering alcoholic. There was musicians and actors of long-term recovery, but there was no one in the football industry that was in recovery. It was just not a done thing. So they all just kind of man up, you know, drink some more, have another beer. You know, my dad was old school. He was on the docks when he was 12. You know, when I come home, I didn't have the ability to come home from school and say, Dad, I had a panic attack at school. He would have gone, well, just go and hit someone. What's wrong with you? You know, just do something. Just go and play football. You're brilliant at that. Go and play football. So that's what I did. I went and played football until that stopped working, and the booze took over from that. So yeah, prison for me was a safe environment. It was like another away game. It was like a hotel room, to be honest with you. So I went in there and I was safe. When I came out, then I've got to do life, and I couldn't do life. I couldn't do feelings. I could do it on the football pitch, but I couldn't. You're getting the message now, I think.
Yes. Your microphone has just slipped down.
It?
Can everyone hear Tony okay still? You can?
Okay.
I think. Are you happy, Paul? Yeah, maybe just try lift it up and see does it come up. We can get someone to fix it if not.
How's that?
It's a bit better,
There we go.
Oh, boom. There you
I
go.
told you, I run up and down. I'm not used to playing football with one of these. How can I hit the ball with that?
You
Football, quick.
We're going to get to...
They're going to get bored.
I don't think they are, honestly.
They're all not drinking. Look at them. They've all been scared to death. And listen, guys, if you need, you know where I am. If any of you are experienced, if anyone's been triggered tonight, please, you know, get a call, get in touch, phone the office. We'll put you in the right direction if you need the help. I'm not anti-gambling. I'm not anti-drinking. I'm very proactive. People that have got problems, reaching out for help. You know, if you're triggered in this way.
As you alluded to, every behaviour has a payoff, so you're numb to those feelings you talked about. That's good. I also get the sense that there must have been a period where it was also, I don't mean to be like insensitive about it, but it must have been also great fun at times when it wasn't all dark, or was it always just grim?
No, I did it for a reason. You know, it changed the way that I felt. So any situation, and I talk about them now because I'm through it and I'm at the other end, but it was so dangerous at the same time.
Sure,
you know, the car crash, for instance, and stuff. I was at a barbecue, I was having fun with my mates. All my mates went home. I was the one that got pissed and got in my car and drove across. You know, I was the one that was weeing myself. I was the one that was getting into fights. I was the one, you know, killing myself. You know, slow self-destruction.
Yeah.
You know, it really is.
Yeah, it's because I remember Euro 96 well. I remember you that well to think that that issue was going on in your marriage at the time, to think that that was going on with you, to think that during Euro 96 you were, as you said, abstaining, white-knuckling, not well, but just and getting through this tournament.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary to look back now, because you just look at the picture of health and your leader and you're so together. The 7 weeks after the Euros where you just go AWOL, just really tough. And like, you'd kids at the time. This isn't I'm free and I'm off and I've no responsibilities. Like, it's carnage.
Yeah, I think the football environment's very protective. You know, we don't have to do anything in that environment. We just turn up and we play football. And I was particularly, you know, I had some talent in there. I had clever feet. Not as clever as Dennis Bergkamp's. And we'll get to the football stuff. I'm sure we'll get to the football stuff. But I've got clever feet and I was talented at that, so I felt very safe in that environment. And To be honest with you, my style of management was it was a bullying. I was very much my way or the highway. I had a bullying coach as well in George Graham, and we were like, he came down from line management, and I was like, "Oh, you know, Lee Dixon, if you're not pulling your way out, you're in." You know what I mean? It's like, you've got to do it. You know, it's my way or the highway. Everyone's going and getting drunk tonight. Everyone's going to go and we're going Portsmouth away. Yeah, we're going to go and driven. I was crazy. Absolutely, you have to. Something has to give. Something has to give, and it gave up until 29. It gave, and it took me out, and I'm really grateful that I'm not in that place anymore. I'm actually comfortable in my own talking in front of people. I couldn't open my mouth to people. You know, I grunted at people. Put me on a football pitch. Hallelujah.
Yeah. And you know that moment where someone says, "Tone, do you want another drink?" in August, and you say, "I actually don't," and the tears and everything, and those initial few days, relief must be a big part of that almost I've given up to, or what is the emotion?
You know, because it's a shame-based, fear-based illness, and a lot of my stuff I'm not proud of what I've done around the streets of here. I wasn't proud of my behaviour and the stuff that I was doing. And that all went inside. You know, we talk about a fridge freezer. If you've got some trauma in your stuff and you shove it in the back and you don't deal with this issue, and then you put some more trauma and you stick it in there, it's rotting. At the back of the fridge, it's rotting, so you have to deal with it. I've been taught to deal with it as we go along, you know, and don't put anything in the fridge. But I was in a period where burying stuff after situation, after bad behaviour, and because I was a sick man, I did a lot of bad stuff when I was sick. Weirdly, I don't do bad stuff now I'm well. It's really weird that.
What was, I suppose, so unusual is that September, I think 96, give or take, you publicly talk about it, and there's, you know, the kind of press pack talking to you, and you come out and you talk about it.
This is a very grown-up interview, this.
Well, we've smart people here. Okay. We will get to the football, but is everyone finding this compelling, I would think? You know, like, they
Let's go with it.
Yeah.
Usually they say, what was Caprice like? That's what you say.
Don't worry. It's a long night. We'll get to this stuff. Yeah. You had a great line about recovering, I thought, where you said coming out of it all, the fog and giving up drink and almost re-emerging. You said, the good news is about recovering, you get your feelings back. You said the bad news is you get your feelings back. So at 29, you're learning to like yourself again, and you're learning to deal with all that stuff. Did you get good at that quickly? Is that easy? Is that hard? What's that like?
It was lucky that I had Arsene Wenger. I was 6 weeks clean and sober, and a spiritual giant came into the Arsenal Football Club. His mum and dad run a pub in Strasbourg, so he knew the way that alcohol changed people. He could understand, I was going to say as a non-addict, but a character trait of an addict is not being able to let go. And I think at the end of his Arsenal career, maybe he was. Maybe he should have. There's more addict in him than he probably realises. But he was a great man. For 6 years, I sat in his office every morning. We had a cup of tea and we talked about politics, history, feelings, thoughts, and I just all this stuff came out of me. And he was just wonderful, wonderful human being that I could connect with, talk with. Everything was on the table, and they're so precious. You know, I happened to win 2 more doubles successfully because it was important for me, because I don't go into this losing your mojo crap. You know, like Arsene said, you played at 70% your capacity. I think I was a pretty good player, but when I sobered up, you know, I became even better. I fulfilled my potential, and it was really important for me to go back and win a couple of more doubles before, because everyone. My clinic is 25 years old now, and most of the people in there, guys and girls in their 50s and 60s with their arse hanging out, going, "Oh Jesus Christ, I've lost everything, and I'm hitting the booze, and I'm you know, help tone and stuff." So I think it was really important for me to be that trailblazer and go, actually. And that's one of the reasons I did the book as well, Addicted. It sold 400,000 copies, and I'm not bitter and twisted, and you don't like cricket, so it's okay, because Dickie Bird's got the record for the the biggest selling autobiography, cricket. So they've all gone blank, and they've all gone, what, cricket? What's that? So yeah, I wrote the book, which was enabled me because you're only sick as your secrets, and going back to the bit that I said my behaviour wasn't that great, and I lost my dignity and I lost my self-respect. I couldn't look people in the eye. I was doing so much shit. I was like that, you know. All the journalists used to say to me, Tone, we could never talk to you. You were out the door, you know. I was scared, rotten, absolutely frightened to death. But when I sobered up, I did that book and I just felt so free. I felt so free. I can come here and talk to you guys. I've got no secrets. I've got absolutely no secrets. I'm comfortable in my own skin. You know, I've got my respect back. I've got my dignity back. I give people time. I listen to them. I think I'm a good listener. My wife says I talk too much about myself. So I've still got a little bit of ego in there, but hopefully I'm a little bit humble with it.
Yeah, it was beautiful to read that part of the book where you said, I decluttered my life. And it just read like, God, that sounds really nice. You know, you simplified everything and sold a boat and sold a second car and sold a house.
I was saying
you had a calm mind.
Yeah, Joe, you know, I came in and this illness doesn't discriminate. It doesn't give a who you are. You know, you black, white, musician, English, Irish, Scottish. It doesn't discriminate, this illness. It really doesn't. It'll get you. If you've got it, it'll get you. And I came into the rooms, I came into recovery, and I don't exaggerate, because I used to. I came in with 2 boats, 3 cars, and 5 houses. And the head very firmly up my backside, you know, with no mates, you know, I had drinking buddies. You know what I mean? We didn't see how you feel and everything. Everything was a piss take. Everything was bullying. Everything was like banter, I suppose. But another layer of banter, really. Yeah. Propping yourself up, because I surrounded myself with sick people. At the end of my drinking, I had to have people that were worse than me. So I grabbed them. I got all my mates divorced. So it was a relief. You talked about relief. It was a relief for all my buddies as well. They all went, oh, thank God. You know, I got them lined up at London Coney, and I put them all in a row. And I said to them, look, guys, I'm 6 weeks. And at that moment, I was 6 weeks clean and sober, and I'm going to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I said, I just want you to know on that. And we've been telling you for years, Tone. For frick's sake. You know, but you're the last one to know, of course. You're the last one to know. And they'd obviously been telling me a few times to get me act in order. I was like the laughing stock of the company, really, of the club. You know, it's like, oh, he's fallen off the wagon again. Oh, he's fallen off the wagon. You know, oh, he's done it again. He's done it again. And at the start, you know, pissing into the bed stuff and all that kind of stuff, it's like a joke. Oh, PP. I remember going to the Euros in 1988, and I run with Viv Anderson. I was talking about him earlier at Euros, and I'm a baby. I'm playing against, you know, with Brian Robson and these fantastic players, and I'm 20, and I play against the best player probably in the world, Marco van Basten at this point, and he turns me inside out, and everyone hates me. Felt like the whole country hate me. So we just got pissed, and I go to bed and I pee myself, and the next morning I go down to breakfast, and the chambermaid has come in and gone pee 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 pee, and all the boys and Bobby Robson, everyone get up and go, pee 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 pee, you know, and I'm a 20-year-old kid. You know, and I kind of manned it off, you know, go, I had a skinful last night, you know, that kind of stuff. But I was like, I didn't know at the time, because I couldn't identify or articulate my feelings. But I was it killed me. It's only when I got sober that I started to look at this stuff. And I made a point. I always remember Stevie Gerrard when he made his England debut, and I got all the lads together, and I was England captain, and I said, look, guys, it's not about us today. It's about this kid. He's making his England debut. We all look after him. He's got to be the man of the match. We've got to look after this kid. So I made a point of getting, you know, making it scary, you know, making your country. And the old pros were all looking after themselves in those days, you know, in 88. It was what it was, you know, there's no blame attached.
A last one then on this chapter of your life. You were very close to your parents. Their experience of this madness.
Yeah, I'm a parent now, you know, and I've got 5 and a stepdaughter, and it's incredibly. My eldest is 2 years clean and sober, and it's really, when you're self-destructing yourself, you know, it's kind of your choice, and it felt like my choice. It probably wasn't. I didn't have a choice, but when you see someone you love just killing themselves through the same illness that I've got, was so hard. And I just put myself back into my mum and dad's. You know, when I went down to prison in Chelmsford, I saw them before I went down, and there are tears in their eyes. You know, 2 beautiful, loving people. You know, great parents I had, great parents. They articulate. We didn't talk feelings, but you know, it was that era. They didn't know. But they were both kind of, oh my God, you know, what have we done, you know? And the press, of course, I'm in prison, so no one's getting to me, but they're at the doorstep of my mum and dad all the time, and they followed me around the world. But they also saw me clean and sober, and I took them out for dinner, and I made amends, and yeah. You're going to make me cry, aren't you?
Sorry.
You're going to make me cry.
I don't want to.
Yeah. And I tell you, and I will go there. You know, when my mum died in particular, she was a good woman, and she died of bone cancer 9 months, and it's probably the hardest thing in my recovery. I sat and held her hand for 9 months watching her die, and didn't pick up a drink, didn't pick up a drug. You know, no desire to change the way that I felt. Cried every day. Yeah, really powerful stuff, and you know, I loved her, but I was there at the end.
Yeah.
Gave her a big hug like I did my dad. Gave him a big hug at the end, and I'll see him one day.
You let yourself feel it. Yeah. On Wenger, when it came to football.
Hey!
It was such an exciting time. Like, lots of Arsenal fans here, I presume, right? Yes, okay, yeah. Like, it must have been just so thrilling when he arrived, and like he's signing these gems, like, you know, Patrick Vieira's washing up, and you've got Anelka, and you've got Henry a little bit later. Like, so he was a savant when it came to recruitment. But I was very struck by, you made the point in the book, he had the good sense as well, though, to understand a good thing when he saw it. So, for instance, small example, you know, he wanted Patrick Vieira front post for corners. And he sort of said, well, Steve Bold does that, and he's good at it, and it works. So we want Steve Bold. And he said, okay. So there was a pragmatism there as well. What made him great for you?
He did as he's told. He didn't like confrontation, Arsene, and he had a wonderful experience back for when he came to the club. Yeah. And you know, sometimes it's about timing, you know. And he's got a clean and sober captain that's got a new life in him, and all the guys changed with me. They changed with me, right. You know, the back 4 changed with me, and we all they did it maybe naturally. They kind of put 2 and 2 together and said, look, we can't keep drinking the levels that we're drinking, and we're not going to have careers, and we're not going to have money. But I've got to back it up a little bit to 95, when a guy called Daniel Fisman came into Arsenal Football Club, and he gave the club 40 million. And that took us to another level financially. It was one of the times when I was thinking about Man United. Don't get too carried away, because, you know, they're shit and always been shit. No, they were not, but they were quite good in the 90s. They were quite good in the 90s. So I said this earlier, in 91, Brian Robson come up to me and he said, look, come on, Alex wants you, and I'll put you on to 90 grand a year. I was on 75 a year at Arsenal. And at that time, obviously, 91, I'm full of illness still. And I've won the league twice with Arsenal. And I didn't have the capacity as a human being to live in Manchester. I don't think no one's got the capability to it's always happened.
Yeah.
You felt it. So I wasn't emotionally and mentally able to make the move at that moment. But when I sobered up in 96, I was ready to explore. And at that time, we didn't have a manager. Bruce Rioch had just been sacked. We had nothing in place. and I went to see the chairman. Who'd have believed that, The club captain talks directly to the chairman, and we could do that, and one thing about Arsene, he did actually create an environment where we could all communicate, and he had a great leadership group, leadership group in the old experienced players. But I went to the owner and I said, look, Alex is, look, Tony, you didn't come to Man United. I don't know. That's Arsene Wenger, isn't it? Tony, Arsenal player in a Man United kid, or something like that. What did he say to me?
Yeah.
He said, you're a Man United player in an Arsenal strip. And I said, you're a Arsenal coach in a Man United blazer. I thought it was quite good at the time, but I also said to him, when you did the treble, we should have done the double. And he said, yeah, when you done the double, we should have done the treble. Anyway, you work that out, 97, 98, and then 99 and stuff. So where was I? I was at Arsene.
Why was Wenger good?
Why was Wenger good? I think I was to the chairman when I was saying to the chairman, look, Mr. Chairman, what are you going to do with this club? What's the ambition? I've recovery. I can talk for a change. I wouldn't dare talk to my owner, in effect. But I've got a bit of self-esteem now. To get self-esteem, you've got to do esteemable stuff. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I can go and see Mr. Chairman, Peter. Mr. Chairman, can what is the ambition of the club? And we have a good man on the way. That's awesome again. Chairman told Etonian, the chairman, he's like, posh, how do I do posh? Tony. Let's forget about the accents. Shall we forget about, we're going to just forget about the accents for a while. Chairman of Arsenal Football Club said to me, Tony, Daniel Fisman's invested 40 million. Your wages is going to be trebled, so I stayed, and and the rest is history. So Arsene Wenger.
Yes.
Arsene, he was. He let us get on with it. I don't know if it was a cop out. He always used to say, "What do I teach Tony Adams about defending?" I'm going to just go on, away you go.
Right.
So he did one session. I told you I'd get up.
Go for it,
He did
yeah.
one point, yeah. I've got to react this. So first session, Arsene Wenger has come and he's, school teacher kind of, he's quite laughable in some of his coaching. He's like, physiologist and preparation recovery, second to none. Benitez was really good, but he was phenomenal at getting my body in the best physical condition for me to go and play. So he was great. But coaching, he said one-on-ones, it's one-on-ones. So we put all the defenders behind the goal. So I've come out first, and all the forwards are in the centre spot. So we've got to get the ball, and we've got to kick it up there to Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, all these kind of players. So, and he wants me to come out and defend 1v1 versus Thierry Henry. So I go, bye-bye. And I start walking in. He's going, Tony, where are you going? Where are you going? I said, no. I spent my career not to get into that situation. I said, it's all about the sum of the parts. Back four. Because the worst back four I ever played in was Dixon, Bold, Winterburn and Adams. And I'll tell you why. When I started the game, I had Viv Anderson, 2 European trophies with Nottingham Forest. Dave O'Leary, Stoke Newington /Irish. I had Kenny Sampson, 86 caps for England. And when I finished, I had Lauren, who was African Player of the Year for Cameroon, Sol Campbell and Ashley Cole. So Dixon, Stoke, Hull, Boldy, Stoke, Nigel Winterburn, Wimbledon. But as a sum of the parts, the work that we do, we knew each other's game, and as a unit, invincible. And if you go and watch, and I urge you to go and watch, if you're a bit of a nerd like me, the back four against Parma in the Euros 1994, we had a magnificent midfield of Selly and Morrow and David Hillier, don't really strike you like it's not Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira, is it? And they would still be, and Palmer at the time with the PSG of its day. They had people like Brolin and Asperella and Zola, and they were phenomenal. And they'd still be there now because that Buffon knew how to go like this and go like that. And you've seen me video, haven't you? Yeah. That's it. Where was I?
Well, on that for a second, there's a clip I saw of Gary Neville talking about you, and he obviously played a couple of years with you, England, and he said of all the people he's ever played with, and it's not even close, he said by a distance, nobody understood a back four like Tony Adams. He said he knew what he should be doing, he knew what everyone else should be doing, and he told us where to be pretty much at all times. He controlled it, and he said it was off the charts, phenomenal.
Yeah, the ADHD really helps, doesn't it? We get stuff done.
But you knew what.
Yeah, and practice. I want to say practice,
Right.
practice. We did then all the time that I wasn't in the pub. I was on the training pitch.
Okay.
And I was practicing. Morning and afternoon, and we didn't physically have a rope, but we had a rope, mental rope, and we could move together. And you've seen the video. I've said that earlier, but we knew where everyone was. 85% of goals come in the box. The whole George Graham, and he took it from Terry Venables, who was his mate at Tottenham. But Tenny was probably one of the greatest. Him and Don Howe, probably the two greatest English coaches of all time. He knew rotation before there was rotation. He'd done great sessions, Terry Venables, on rotation. If you're in one box, that person in the box has to get out of the box and go there. So, and the 96 team were Darren Anterton and David Platt having rotation on this side, and Steve McManaman and Gazza on the other side doing rotation. And we had Tenny, and the Scottish were like, "Oh, what's going on here?" You look Colin Hendry's going, "Oh, Jesus!" And then I was popping into midfield before Pep Guardiola, 25 years later, was trying to do this stuff. So. I've lost track. Where were we?
No, it's okay. One other thing about you mentioned about Wenger there. He was a genius in terms of getting your body right. Like, I think your jaw was realigned around that time because there was a sense it was contributing to an ankle injury. Like, we're talking. This was space age stuff for the time.
No, absolutely. And I was come from a period when we won the league in '89. We used 17 players, 2 Irish and 11 English. 13, and then so we used 17 players for that over the course of the season. They use that all the time now. So I come from an era where you played every game. You used to get injections and just go out there and play again. Concussion, everything. You go play. Fall down the steps, play. So when Arsene's come, and I'm clean and sober as well, and I've come in and we played Blackburn at home, and I'm not there, but I'm manning up and going out there, and we've lost the game, and we had a big meeting afterwards, and Arsene said, "Oh, Tony, take 3 weeks off." What? It was like unheard of. He said, "Yes, 1 week, do nothing, south of France. You go south of France, do nothing. 2nd week, rehabilitation. 3rd week, come back, train, play, job done." I'm still back in the old days, like, hold on a minute, no, someone else might come and get my position, all that fear of that stuff. No, I'm better injured than Martin Keown is fit. That's obvious. That's kind of, come on, that's kind of obvious. I know that, even that's not. So you need me, Arsene. He said, no, I need you 100% every game. The fans expect that. You should expect that. I expect that. Everyone, because they'll remember 100. I want them to remember 100% Tony Adams. This is why I retired when 2002, and I only played 13 games that last season because I was feeling it. And I think people nowadays, they go on and go on and go on. I lifted that trophy and went, job done. I'm out of here. And the people have got that last. I think I'm only here today because of the success that I had in that later days and stuff. So
yeah,
they don't remember me going to play for Tranmere. And
I suppose your iconic
nothing
moment
to
is
those guys that want to
mean.
go and play for Tranmere.
Yeah, your iconic moment is '98. It's the one clip we decided we would play. We're not laden down with video clips. So this, I know you guys don't need any introduction. This is when Arsenal beat Everton, final day of the season. Win 4-0 to win the league. They would win the double, and Tony scores the 4th goal, courtesy of a Steve Bold chip. We'll ask you about that in a minute. But obviously the celebration has become kind of iconic, and given what we've talked about and where you were in your life, like it's a beautiful moment when you understand what must have been going on with you. We'll ask you about it in a moment, but here's Tony making it 4-0, glorious moment in the sunshine.
Now Bold, and it's Tony Adams put through by Steve Bold, would you believe it? That sums it all up. Arsenal, awesome, cream of the crop.
A defence-splitting pass from Steve Bold, a magnificent finish from the captain.
That celebration, man, it's just powerful, isn't it? Beautiful.
So, Kenny Sampson, spoke about him earlier, 86 games for England. Always used to do that in training, and I had it in the back of my head. He always used to play. He played left back, Kenny Sampson, and I used to sometimes play left central defender. And he used to give it to me inside and say, "Stick us in, Skip, stick us in." And he did it in training. He was a great player. I don't know if you remember Kenny at all, but they were going to put him on Maradona. Such was his low centre of gravity in 1986. Phenomenal footballer, you know, for a left back as well. You know, he could play anywhere. He could play in midfield and stuff. He's a great player. But I had that in the back of my head, and we were 3-0 up, and Boldy had just come on, and it broke actually perfectly. And I said to Skip, we call him what do we call him?
Boldy?
Chief.
Okay.
We call him Chief. I won't give the reason, it's not polite. So we called him Chief. So I went, "Chief, stick us in!" And he stuck us in. And I'm 18 months clean and sober at this point. You know, obviously I sobered up in 16th of August 96, and this is the summer. So it's about 18 months. And I've got my life back. I've got my, you know, I'm just so free. I can't express. I don't want to say born again. I'm not, you know, it was such a, I'm not very religious, but it was such a spiritual moment for me, you know. It just like, I just felt complete, physically, mentally and emotionally. It just a wave when I just smashed it, and that could have gone anywhere. My left foot, you know. I couldn't kick it with my left foot. I remember as a kid, I had talking earlier, but I was in a West Ham. I was West Ham as a kid. I went around all the clubs. I went to Man United. They all wanted to sign me, but I was in there and I couldn't kick it with my left like that. And then, you know, practice, and 20 odd years later you burst through and you smash it, and it just goes in, and it just wheels away, and it's just like a, you know what I mean? You spoke about Caprice. It's nowhere near. This is so much better. Guys, this was so much better, you know. Physically, I'm on the game. Mentally, I'm on fire. I'm free. I'm healthy. I've smacked a goal into what could be, you know. And it came out in that statue. You know, it's as simple as that. That's a man that's in recovery, is alive, and I can't give you articulate enough kind of superlatives to say that it was just an amazing moment of my life. Probably, don't tell the wife this, but probably better than all my kids' birthdays, to be honest.
Amazing. Unfair question. Of all these players that he pulls in, Overmars, Vieira, there's Petit, Anelka, then it's the next wave like Henry, Kanu, Lundberg, Fabregas, you know, a little bit after your time with them.
Christ.
But it's
6
endless.
World Cup winners you've just mentioned.
It's insane. When these arrive and pitch
I don't think we won enough.
Possibly not. Well, I'm going to get on to your rivalry with Man United in a second. Which of these did you... The best is a shit question, but like, which of these blew you away or you thought, wow,
it's
amazing?
Really difficult when you're talking about different positions, different players, because they're all, you know... Overmars hated Dennis because, you know, Overmars was brilliant. You know what I mean? But he's so in the shadow of Dennis, and all his life, and being another Dutchman, it's like, you know, you've got this unbelievable player. because Dennis can make goals and score goals. You know, he's a phenomenal player, which probably puts him in front of Thierry, who scored a lot of goals, but I'm not sure how many he played. But then again, how do you compare him with people like Manu Petit and Patrick Vieira and and the Roy Keanes of the world? You know, these kind of players, and the players that I used to play against, I used to hate the number 10s, the Teddy Sheringham's, the Zidanes, the Maradonas, that kind of cause you problems in there. I used to like a fight. I broke my nose 5 times in the first year. It was a very violent game in the 80s when I started, and Big Joe Jordan at Man United, smash gone. John Fashanu at Wimbledon, then Cyril Regis at West Brom. I'm like, oh Jesus, it's just the game that I go into. So you have to kind of hold your own and get on. But it just changed. So I was used to that. So Alan Shearer, I always say, was so easy for me because he was a throwback to the good old days. And I think Haaland would be very easy for me today. That's the kind of guy I'd chew him up tomorrow. You know what I mean? But these ones that float around in there and make you think and stuff, like Dennis's and the Peter Beardsley's, he was a fantastic. He made Gary Lineker, didn't he, in Mexico?
And then did you go in after Maradona and have a few nips, or did you stay away? I can't imagine what it's like to go against him.
Weirdly, I never got the opportunity to go in and nail him, but he played in a UNICEF game, soccer aid. At Man United, and I run the full length of the pitch, and there's an old 38-year-old somewhere on YouTube topping Maradona, who's in his 50s at that point, I suppose. So I got the opportunity later on.
Good for you. Yeah. Take him down.
I did that with one of the greatest players, number 10s as well, that I ever played with in the early days, and people don't see he was really nasty and really strong as well. He had a massive arse. He had a really big arse. Kenny Dalglish, I don't remember him. He used to stick his arse in and turn you around. He was so good at holding up the ball. And I'm a 17-year-old playing up at Anfield, and Alan Hanson's got the cops behind him. And Alan Hanson's got the ball, and he's just rolled it to Kenny Dalglish. And the first thing Kenny done, he went smack straight in my shoulder back. And I went like that. I couldn't breathe. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. So he comes off, because I'm going one way now. I'm like, So he comes the other way, and he just like turns around, puts the ball through, 3-0 up. 83rd minute, I think it was. And so they're 3-0 up, Liverpool, and it's the 83rd minute, and the ball's in the bottom right, but Kenny's over here, and I've just turned around and I've gone like that. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Down the pub tonight, and I've just kicked Kenny Dalglish." He said, "But you've lost 3-0. I said, "Don't give a shit. Who cares? It's Kenny Dalglish." And to actually go there some years later and win the La Liga at Anfield, it's just phenomenal how you can go from... I always say, if I didn't have that experience of playing at that age, at that place, with them on fire, I'd never have been okay to go then in 89 and
Sure.
do what we did. We had to do that. We had to kind of go there, and there was an important game in the Cup in the February of that year where we actually beat them, and we knew, we was arrogant youth kids, call it what you want, but we were full of ourselves. Me, Rocky. Can you imagine that? You talk about the class of 92, that's boring. We had the class of 82. We had 6 internationals in our youth team. Noel Quinn, there we go, my old mate. Quiddy! Paul Merson, Michael Thomas, Dave Broadcastle, myself and Martin Keown. It was 6 internationals. No wonder we won the league in 89 and 91. That was the way that we won the league in the first 2 years. Right. And in 98 and 97, 98 and 2000 and 2002 was money. It was money because we got players in from money. So that's the 2 squads that I was involved in. I was actually involved with 3, but I won't mention the drinking years. We've done enough of that.
98 double, 99 FA Cup semi-final, sliding doors moment maybe. League goes down to last day of the season. United win the treble. Do you sort of feel...
we have to?
I just want to... How do you think... Do you in your heart of heart feel "Ugh, we were better than them," or do you concede they were better than that Arsenal
No,
team?
it was a fantastic rivalry. I really loved a lot of their players. You know, Teddy and I grew up as kids, and Bex, I knew them intimately, and I actually went in after they beat us at very good. Where was we?
You liked a lot of their players.
When we
You
missed
rated them.
Dennis missed the pen, last
Yeah.
pen he ever took.
Yeah.
I went in at Villa Park and I went in to see Gary Neville, and they thought I was going into it, and maybe I don't know, but I said congratulations, Ted, and congratulations, good luck in the final,
Right.
and you know, well played, and I think they really appreciated that.
How did you get on with Roy as a fellow, as your
No, he
your
was like
captain?
the year kind of the group after me. So I had, I made amends to Roy. I was a little bit out of order to him during my drinking days with Robbo was my kind of drinking partners, and my, Norman Whiteside and Mark Hughes. That was my kind of age group. That they were ones that I was with. If we were in South Africa, comes to mind, and Roy had just joined the club from Forest, and he literally was a little boy at that point. And I was a bit out of order, but I've said sorry since, and he's a lovely guy. I've got huge respect for him, and I think he's a great man, really.
Yeah. And as captains, kind of 99, that peak rivalry, it didn't get tetchy between you two. It didn't seem to. Yeah.
No, nothing at all. I just enormous respect. And to be fair, we should have done the treble. I don't know what Alex is talking about. We Nelson Vives never played for us again. Jimmy scored at the far post, Liverpool, Leeds, that give Man United the treble. He gave them the last minute. They won by a point. If we didn't concede in the last minute, Nelson Vives asked and said, "You'll never play again." Boom, gone.
And
Nelson never played again.
You must, as a very experienced defensive group, have thought to yourselves, why did no one just foul Giggs? Why did no one just...
It was a square ball as well for Patrick.
Well, I know that,
Patrick still got his hands in his head in his hands, but
You slid last
over the
almost.
course of 3 decades. I got very close. The goalie's hand was a bit like that as well. Let's be honest. There was so much talent. I always remember my sister saying this. There was so much talent on that pitch. It could have gone either way.
Yeah.
Anybody could have done it. We were a penalty away, for God's sake. And
Yeah.
10 men. And then they've got the Nelson Vives incident. All of a sudden, we've got the double. Surely, but they've gone and done and treble. So our rivals at the start was Liverpool.
Sure.
Then it became Man United, and then it became Chelsea. Chelsea with Abramovich's money. So I had 3 kind of. So I'm not personally kind of attacking United because they're doing enough destruction themselves. Jesus Christ! What a mess, huh? Dear, oh dear.
You can cut loose on them in part 2. I promise I'll let you. I promise. So look, time has gone by quickly, as I knew it would. There were 100 things I wanted to ask you, and we've got to maybe 20 of them. To sum up, and I mentioned at the top, you took all the money from Addicted, which, and by the way, reading that again, how that was allowed to be public. Like, the captain of Arsenal, that was tell all. You took all the money from that, started Sporting Chance. You've helped so many people. Like, that has flourished. That has helped footballers caught up in the abuse scandal of recent years.
20 contracts, cricket, tennis, ATP Tour, World Tours, 25 years old. Yeah, 20 contracts, cricketers, everything. We had Sports Institute in Northern Ireland for a while up there, and we did. It really works. Helps a lot of athletes, but also now with the prison service, we help about 35,000 people. I'm chairman of the Forward Trust, which is another charity that I'm involved in, because I went to Chelmsford prison and there was no addiction, so I'm now putting 12-step programs in prisons, and
So I guess, and watching you just hold the room in your hand all evenings, just so at ease with yourself. To sum up, it seems like it's a remarkable thing the way you've turned your life around, and you just seem in such a great place. And I would think, proud of yourself, feel good about Tony Adams now?
I'm all right, mate. I think I'm all right.
Should be.
I think all right. Yeah, no, I've thank you. It's important to stop, and then it's important to stay stopped, which was probably the hardest 2 things. But then it's so important that you live, and you live happy and start to love yourself. It's the greatest love of all, as the Whitney. I'm going to break it. The song, the greatest. Let's not go there. I'm sorry. No, I'm free as a bird. I'm absolutely emotionally and mentally free as a bird, and I kind of tried. It's Bill. I finished with this.
Yes.
I think we're into the nuts and bolts. But there's a guy called Bill W. who started Alcoholics Anonymous 90 years ago, and he's got a very good thing that I live my life today, and it says, "Live usefully, walk humbly under the grace of God."
Good. Tony Adams, everybody.